Shooter Breeze topic number 2 says, how would y'all feel if your sons brought home Becky? Would we feel the same way like their fathers if they were racist? This came with a link that's taken us to Twitter again. Make sure you guys can see my screen. You can. On Twitter, this is a post from Just Posting Els. It says, every father's worst nightmare. So this looks like a prom picture. All right. It looks like a prom picture. Let me see if there's more to it. Someone called Post by Fed says, undersized heels on their daughters are definitely a nightmare material for dads. The person who posted said, that's exactly my thoughts, but apparently some people took it differently. So this is one of these clown type posts. Someone else says, strange phenomenon, that awkward moment when you haven't unlocked your boyfriend as a playable character yet. So some white women and some dark-skinned men. But this is the image. Every father's worst nightmare is the caption, and the prompt says, how would you feel? How would y'all feel if your sons brought home Becky? Would we feel the same way like their fathers if they were racist? That's a very interesting question. Let me start with Buana on this one. Buana, what are your thoughts on this?
I would feel like a failure. And let's get past the human conversation. I would feel like a failure because if I get this thing right, then all of my son impressions in terms of womanhood would be a woman who I would be comfortable with, a woman who looked like me, from my background, sometimes from even my culture, but background, history, heritage. I don't see, I would see where I went wrong. Where I went wrong. And you could call me a racist if you want to. That's fine. In terms of how this conversation is getting couched, if they were racist, I guess I'm a racist because my introduction to my son would be that of a black woman who is productive, good, kind, respectful, all these kind and have a certain kind of disposition. I don't personally think that you're going to hear that from Becky. Now in the Bahamas, we even have European people here. We have white people here who speak Bahamian and all that good stuff. But I see a disconnect. For me there is a cultural disconnect, and I'd have to ask myself where did I go wrong, because my thing ultimately is to give my son the impression that black women are the greatest. They're the greatest. You know what I mean? So how he would resolve that equation in getting a white lady, I would feel like I something went wrong. I did something wrong. And ain't no slight on nobody, but I would feel like I did something wrong. That's what I would say.
All right. I appreciate that. Buana Black Steel, how would you feel?
Well, it's time for confession, guys. It's time for confession. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. My son took a white girl to the prom. Well, she wasn't like she was like a spicy white, right? She was a spicy white. She was a Colombian white girl. But you know what? That didn't last very long. It was like a fun thing. They had fun, and then it kind of drifted apart. So it wasn't like a long term thing. But I say that to say, just overall, I prefer in the perfect world, I want my children to be with black people. I want them to be with members of their own race, to procreate and build a life and build a family with another black person. That's what I want. That's what I think is what's best for our people in the long run. I think that we need to want to reproduce and build with each other and build families with each other. And I think that's something I want. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. Everybody don't agree with me on this. I don't believe all people are created equal. You know, if he got with somebody who was, say, Aboriginal Australian, or somebody from Samoa, I wouldn't trip. I don't think I'd be as upset. Okay, you got with somebody, they might be black, but at least they not white. That's how I would look at it. But yeah, I would prefer, in all ways, to be with a person of African descent. That would be my desire. That's what I would like, and I would feel like if you couldn't see any beauty within your own people, within your own people group, within your own race, what happened? Where did I go wrong? I didn't teach you to value your own people. You know, where do we mess up at? Where do we decide that black people was not the standard of beauty? And I think that a lot of times these young people get a lot of messages about black inferiority, right? And you hear this in a lot of these dating shows. These women that want to date a white man because the white man won't treat you better, and so on and so forth. And you know, it's 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 so common, right? And then when you finally hear it, like growing from a young person's mouth, I don't want to date somebody dark skinned. I don't want dark skinned people, right? There's this whole thing about in Latin America about dating, like improving the race, bettering the race, right? So that's the whole thing. That blackness is seen as something dirty or something wrong with us, and these ideas are internalized by our young people. Every time you cut on TV, you see a biracial woman. Usually, she with a white dude, which is crazy because white people treat their biracial members worse than black people ever have. But no, honestly, I would feel like what is it that you? Is this something you went out because you actually like this person, or you saw something and you thought it was an upgrade? I got me a white person now. I'm stepping my game up. Is that how you feel? I would be concerned about that.
Yeah, I would. You would have to sit down and because I would want to sit down and talk to my son and ask him, well, what's the thinking here? Is this thinking brought out of you thought that this person, was the better person, or it's just you think just because I wouldn't want to know what their thinking is. Even listen, man. At the end of the day, I can't force you can't force your children to do something which you ain't into. At the end of the day, but I would just want to paint the best picture possible in terms of what I like and pray that that person, my children, want the same thing. And even with the best social engineering, trigger happy. Even with the best social engineering with children are random, bro. They random, so they can do what they can do regardless. But I would want the best image and ideas in their head to come from themselves first before it comes from any other groups of people. That's what I would say.
So I respect the way you guys answered that. I do, because you answered it from a personal thing as a black man and as a father. The one pushback I would have is I don't know if children are that random when you have put your stamp on them, so to speak. When you raise them with a standard and a certain outlook. I don't know, because I asked my sons this question not too long ago. And in fact, I ask them every so often. And without having to lead them or anything, they tell me straight up they're not trying to bring no white woman home. And the second thing I'm going to just touch on lightly. I'm not going to try to get into a whole thing here, but I would have to question, like these guys in this picture. I'd have to question: is your mother around? Because I find it hard to see that you would bring these lily white chicks around when you have a black mother at home. And this is why I wish there was a black woman on the panel to speak to that. What is going on with your relationship with your mama that you would bring home these white women.
You
Am I
gonna
off?
you gonna y'all, the panel might jump me, but I got some things I gotta say. What number one, right? Um, schools are integrated, right? So a lot of times, children are going to be around a lot of different races of people. It used to be where black people went to majority black schools. Now you have schools where you have all the races mixed with each other. You have blacks and whites, Hispanics, Asians, and everything going to school. So for one, these young men are exposed to a lot more. Two, children are naturally rebellious, right? And I think that's something that really children like to push boundaries. You can tell a child not to do something all till you're blue in the face. But at some point, they're going to want to try to push back because, hey, that's what kids do, you know. Two, another thing, that may be very well what these white girls are doing. These white girls trying to piss off their daddy, get daddy upset, go to the prom with a black boy. But are they going to marry these boys? Are they going to be in a long-term relationship with these guys? Probably not. Interracial relationship rate is still pretty low in the United States. It's not like it's half or even that much. It's pretty low. Most black people tend to marry and date within their own race. These white girls could just be doing that because they want to give their dad, upset him, get under his skin. I don't think that this is something that, it's the father's worst nightmare. But I'm pretty sure she's going to end up dating. Because what I've noticed and what I've experienced is that white women will have fun with, especially a lot of them have fun with black men. They love the black phallus, they love their black penis. But are they going to, when it comes time to settle down and get married, they'll hurry up and they'll marry some, square white dude and have a couple kids for him after they spent their 20s, having fun with black guys or Latino guys or white dudes that wasn't no good. They'll be like, okay, well, I had my fun. Let me settle down. And a lot of people recognize it. Oh, she's sowing her wild oats or whatnot. And it's just seen as a natural thing. Not saying it's okay, but I think that because schools are integrated, we're going to have um, a lot of contact with people of different races. That's not going to change anytime soon, right? But and overall, I think that what we see is that for most black people, they tend to want to be with other black people. It's not really a situation where black people just out the blue just want to be with white people, except, you do have those swirlers, you have the divestors, you have those people who legit feel as though being with any race except black people is a benefit, right? But you know what? Most black peoples aren't Pan African nationalists. My mom ain't a Pan African nationalist, but I will say, growing up, I was told she can't use your comb. Don't bring her home. You know, she don't want.
Black
Yeah,
black. When you look at these pictures, I
yeah,
don't. I look at these pictures and I see like these are hostages, because
really.
if you really, yeah, because if you really think about it, the power dynamic is completely skewed. Here's what I mean in saying that: if any of them white girls was to just say anything happened that night, that they, let's say, oh, he kissed me and I didn't want to kiss him, that's 30 years automatically off of just saying that. And the black guy in the picture could say, "Oh, it didn't happen that way." He could scream, and yeah, all she has to do is just say, "Oh, he touched my butt and I didn't want him." That's 15 years. What are you gonna? They are completely vulnerable, brother. The power dynamic is completely with them two little innocent little white angels. You know what I mean? All they just need to do just is say something off, and the time that these brothers are spending in jail would be, it would be dramatic. It would be dramatic. The power dynamic is completely off. I don't see two consenting adults going to, well, to the prom or whatever, four consenting adults. I see two black men who are completely in a completely vulnerable situation, and they don't know how vulnerable they are right now. Because like I say, all Becky has to do is fall on and say he pushed me, and that's 30 years. Easy, easy, easy. And all of us know it. But
Yeah, you're
these
right.
brothers don't see the danger. They don't see that danger because they're young, they ain't live long enough, and they don't understand enough about the world to know what could be the outcome of this innocent little thing they go into on one night. One night.
We really just talked about the high level of exonerations for black men. And I think that, truth be told, a lot of people are not teaching their children. And I'm seeing it a lot more with the new generation, Generation Alpha now. They're not teaching their children to be wary of white people. And I'm noticing that they're not teaching them, hey, you watch out for your white folks. That was something that was long ingrained. You got to watch out for these white folks. Keep your eye on them. And that's something they're not teaching their kids to watch, to be wary of white people. They're not teaching them, hey, watch your back. Don't be alone with these white women. That's something they're not being taught. And they really, unfortunately, they grow up thinking that we're all created equal and we can all do the same thing, and you can. Like you said, just one accusation. Oh, I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, and boom, your life is ruined.
Black Steel, I remember I was in university. I was in university in America, and I used to have this Italian friend at the time, and me and her we was in the study hall, and I was arguing with her, big time arguing with her, big time, because I'm dumb to these kinds of things. I'm a new person in the United States. I don't know nothing but nothing. She just a white girl from Philadelphia, who's Italian. So me and her, so a black lady pulled me out of the room and she say, Cohen, what are you doing? Say, Bawana, what are you doing? Say, she told me that's a white girl. Don't you know how much problems you could get into? I didn't know. I didn't know. I was just having we was just having a regular conversation and rowing each other. And she's like, that is seen as a point of aggression here. You can't do these things. You can't do that. You know, it was so that kind of ignorance, if you ain't careful, you could be very vulnerable and out of place and out of pocket. And somebody just need to pull these brothers' coat, and tell them to just be careful. Be careful, bro.
So I think that's where, and this is why I like Trigger Happy too. That's where Trigger Happy comes in right there. When Trigger said earlier that it's kind of lazy to say that children will just be random, you have to put in that effort. That's why I agree with Black Steel 100%. I think we're not putting in the effort. The reason why my children, when I ask them that question, could tell me now I'm bringing them a black room because I put in that effort. And my oldest son is not even 21 yet, right? But I put in that effort since they were small. I told them since they were small, don't think that you and these white folks could run and do the same shit and you can get off like they don't get off. So the effort has to be put in there. And I also like what Trigger said, too, is that the prompt itself is being presented to Pan-Africanists, right? The panelists and people around here should be Pan-Africanists. What are we doing? What are we teaching? What's the effort that we're giving our children? Are we just producing random children to start from scratch and gotta get the bruises like what Buana just described, arguing with an Italian woman and someone have to pull you to the side and kind of tell you, hey, don't do that. Right? Are we raising random kids, or as Pan-African people, are we pushing a standard? And that's the thing I always talk about on Shoot the Breeze. Are we pushing a standard here? I think this is a chance to kind of give a teaching moment to folks who are watching. Like, you know what? Turn to your black sons and tell them there's nothing greater than a black woman. Look at your mother. Your mother is a black woman. Why would you want to go bring home a white girl, even if it's just for the prom night, right? Where is that effort? I think that's really what the question is getting at. But I could be wrong. Let me see what our next panelist has to say. Let's welcome in Kofi this week. Kofi, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm glad I was able to get in on this topic. It was a topic I found to be very interesting. Everyone, please partake in Discord. I'm seeing the activity there, but yeah, please take part in the Discord. Put whatever ideas of the topics that you want to put in there so we can discuss on Saturdays. it seems like you and I, Kuku, got the same. My oldest son, he's going to be 21. He's not been 21 yet, and he's in college right now. So he goes to Purchase College here in New York, and he's been going there for about 2 years. And one day, and he knows. And there was a moment where I was just so proud of him. So again, like I'm like 6'4", my son is like 6'2", 6'3", tall, big guy, right? So dreads. So he's gonna demand attention if you want it or not. People are gonna look at him because he's tall, big guy. I was dropping him off to his dorm one day, and I dropped him off to his dorm, and it was like a Halloween party or something like that, right? And I dropped him off. I'm thinking, I was like, man, why are you playing? You're going to go to that party on the side. He's like, Dad, no, I'm good. I'm going right in my room, chilling, play PlayStation or whatever. I'm like, nah, for real, you're going to go? He's like, I'm not going to none of these parties with these people no more. I was like, why? What happened? He says, one day they were having a party, and I was looking for my friend. And, parties are normally crowded. People are bumping into each other, right? Some white girl somebody bumped to this white girl, or somebody touched this white girl's butt, and she's looking at him like, oh, you touching my butt, you touched my ass, you touched my ass. He's like, no, I didn't. Yes, you did, you touched my ass. He's like, it's like, number one, what ass? And no, I didn't. And so he's like, I'm not going back there or anything like that. He says, Dad, white girl's tears will get you 20 years. I'm not messing with it. I'm like, wow, I saw my son became a man. And he has to literally beat these white girls off of him because he used to have a roommate and he no longer has a roommate. So now that these girls know he don't have a roommate, they some of them be chilling. He's cool. I'm like, hey, you don't have to, obviously you don't hate white people. Obviously that's not the point, but know who you are. And you said, Dad, we're just friends. And I'm like, yo, when we got class tomorrow, anytime you need to get up out of here, nah, I'll just spend the night here. He's like, oh, hell nah, you gotta go. You gotta go. So we have to train our son. And he was, I don't know if it's called this sexual assault, but he was sleeping one time. He fell asleep and he woke up. He was like, what's going on here? He dozed off. And the white girl was there, dozed off, and she took my son's hand and put it up her bra. He's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, boy, didn't I tell you about these white girls and how they are? She likes you. She's cool. Now, let's say you kicked her out and she felt a type of way. All she got to say is rape. He's like, yeah, Dad, I know. I was like, do not literally fall asleep on these chicks. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You're playing with your freedom. You're playing with your life. They are not worth it. They are not worth it. You know what I'm saying? And he doesn't play in the snow like that. You know what I'm saying? I believe myself or something like that. We could be cool, we could chill, but I love black women. I'm sorry, I love my black women. You know what I'm saying? And he has enough sense to know, but hey, a young man is a young man. Not all of our young men are gonna be that strong, but we have to really home in on why. And again, I have family members that play in the snow and sometimes they get frostbite. You have to understand, again, in this day and age, it has nothing to do with hate. It has to do with how things have been since forever, for thousands of years. This is how it's been. Your legacy. You have to think of your legacy and not be so Romanesque in a way of thinking of romance. And no, this is your legacy, right? I made sure you have a black mother with a clear black Pan-African mindset, knowing that she's an African woman. You need to do the same, because if you don't, then what are we really doing here? And then you have kids, like I even say, my brother just plays in the snow all day. That's all he does. Make a whole bunch of bullshit excuses, right? Love my niece, love my nephew, right? But when you with these people, even though your spouse is cool, their parents could be racist, their brother could be racist, their grandpa could be racist. All these, why am I taking this fucking chance? To the point where my brother's wife, the grandfather is a fucking racist piece of shit. To the point where they don't want to leave my niece there because he's a racist piece of shit. Why are we putting ourselves in this fucking situation? And fuck anybody who says, oh, it's love. You can't help who you love. Bullshit. Yes, you can. There's a reason why you're not with a crackhead. There's a reason why you're not with an alcoholic. There's a reason why you're not married to a hoe or wife beater. So don't tell me you can't help who you love. You have a preference. You have a pool of people who you want to expose yourself to, and those are the pool of people that you quote unquote fell in love with. So I know I don't mean to be ranting or whatever, but I'm just trying to give you guys some examples of why this is important moving forward, because we have grown people still have grown black men and black women, especially with this gender war that we have within the black community, that we pretty much have to stop. And they think it's just a game because they're looking, oh, romance. You know what I'm saying? If you don't love yourself, you can't even love who you are. I read an article on BuzzFeed about this black woman who she was like younger, like in their 20s or whatever. Her and her husband have no, they're quote unquote fine, but she said she had to divorce her husband for her own mental sanity because her in-laws were so racist. She basically saying it was a lot of microaggressions and things like that. So, and she said she was losing herself and herself as an identity. So now she's saying she doesn't want to be with black men. So it's something that we have to keep driving home. So that's pretty much it. I don't want to keep rambling.
What white girl tears will get you 20 years. That's the quote of the day.
I was proud of him when he said that, man. I didn't leave us because I didn't know why. You in college, you're gonna act crazy, you want to party or whatever. And when he said that, he's like, nah, not doing it, Dad. I got a future ahead of me. I'm not messing with these women.
Yeah, that's what it looks like when you're not being random as a parent. I think, there's a lot of things we got to face with the black community within ourselves. And this is not me talking from a white talking point, because they don't even really talk about it like that. But it's just that we gotta be stronger in our dealings, especially when it comes to our children. If we want to carry on this resistance, if we don't be firm and teach them what to do. Again, I know humans are humans. Some might stray this side and the other, but it's our job to give them that grounding from young, so that they don't even consider that stuff. To bring home a white guy or a white woman. And I'll say something too, because I showed the comments on the screen, but Trigger made a point. We tend to, like Black Seal said earlier, if she can't use your comb, don't bring her home, right? But we kind of, a lot of us don't expand the thought. Why is that the case? And this is where you got to touch history. You got to touch history and say, listen, man, we don't have a good history with these people. Stay away from them people. There's nothing wrong with saying that. We don't have a good history with those people. Even like Black Seal mentioned a couple weeks ago when they offed Charlie Kirk. Even liberal whites were scolding black folks not to champion that murder, right? Even liberal white folks aren't your friends. So we got to put these things in that analysis of, man, historically we don't have a good go with these people. You stay away from them. Don't bring them home. Black Seal mentions that Kofi made a great point. Biracial children will always have bad odds because of their family, and the family has a high probability of despising them. Like, why would we sit by weekly, and I don't mean days of the week, I mean being weak and not instilling the right messages into our children so they could go on and fumble the whole thing by, stand up in a picture like this instead of just standing there like that, but these white women with a pregnant belly instead. That's a failure on our part. Any last
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, because I want to stir the pot a little bit because everybody
Yeah,
agreeing. So I got to stir the little pot. So I taking off my Garvey hat and I putting on my humanism hat. So here's the thing: when young people see the world, they see the world tabula rasa. They say that's what they say, blank slate. So if I show in my dealings with women, in particular black women, that black women can be good, spirited, conscious, respectful, all the high-minded things you could think about, right? And as the brother said last week, right? Because I could point to last week, that if that has not been their experience with the black women they have encountered, but I come across a Becky who have all the characteristics of my mother. She is respectful. She is kind. She does all the things character wise. Character wise.
yeah.
Let me finish. Let me finish because I know you're all jumping in the bit. Character wise. What am I to do in that scenario? Should I refute her to jump at a person who is bringing me misery? Misery. Because I can talk from a young black man's perspective. Because they're looking at us and saying, well, we just old fashioned. We talking old politics talk. It's not like that anymore. I meet a woman who have all exemplary qualities of my mother. She just happened to don't have the same pigmentation as her. What do you do in that scenario? Because it's a real conversation since we're having one.
Let me quickly respond. Let me quickly respond to that. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, right, when someone points out some of the ills of black women and then you jump on them, right? You jump on them, you say the black woman is God, blah, 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 which is all great, right? You can't jump on a person when they point out certain things. You jump on them, and then the next week you come and you say, but if a white woman is this and that, and the black woman is exactly what people was talking about the week before. You can't have it both ways, right? So I'll say this. The same way you could find that in a white woman, you could find it in a black one. As a matter of fact, you'll probably find it quicker in a black woman. And another thing too, in the Bible, I'm not a biblical person, but I grew up around church. There's a woman in the Bible. I always think about this woman named Delilah, right? And she brought this man who a lot of people consider a black man, Samson, down, right? You got to understand too, when a white woman, especially a white woman, comes around a black man, you got to question, and this is something you got to teach your children. Why is she here? Why is she here? Kofi kind of touched on it earlier. You're 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", a college student, this, that, and the other. Why are you around me? So I would take it at a grain of salt that I found all these things in this white woman because, number one, why is she around me? And I will go look for that woman. The black woman is God. I'll go look for that woman in a black woman. I'll say that. Whoever wants to go next, I think Black Seal might have wanted to go, or Kofi.
I was going to say very quickly, we're leaving something out of the equation, right? Talking about our sons, what about our daughters, right? It's important to put our boys on Pan-Africanism and so on and so forth. But if the sisters aren't responding to what if the girls aren't picking up what the boys are putting down, you're going to have a problem, right? And I think that there's a stereotype that white women are much easier and much more pliant than black women can be. That is not a stereotype I adhere to, but that is part of the stereotype. And young people, especially young boys, they're going to take the path of least resistance. Most black people are not Pan-African. Most black people are not revolutionary. And if a young man wants to get his dick wet, he's going to take the path of least resistance. That white girl doing monkey double backflips. The black girl, you know what I'm saying? The black girl ain't gonna be so willingly capable. And again, I'm dealing with stereotypes and so on and so forth. I don't hold this view, but I think that if we're gonna speak to what our young men are selecting, we have to also raise up our daughters to also see the value in being and coupling with black men, because I don't believe that we're hearing that at all. In fact, we're hearing the opposite, right? That's just my thoughts on that.
It's not it's not a total stereotype. Now, like, I haven't gone away to college, like gone away on campus university. My sister has, and I've I've been to campuses to visit, to chill. I know other black men been on campus to visit and chill. And a campus I went to, it was Fairfield University in Connecticut, right? Not too far from Boston. These white girls, they because I guess they daddy ain't around, they let all they hoe out. They try to fuck on the first night. I remember when I went to that college the first time, literally, they had within an hour, I had like 3-4 white girls trying to talk to me. 3-4 white girls just trying to talk to me, to the point where I was bringing, my friends, like, yo, y'all want to get some white bitches? Just come here. They like, word. Friends started coming here. I had some friends that was going there that I even didn't know they were even going there. You know what I'm saying? Because they were just open like that. But I'm saying to say, my sister's played college basketball there, and she's seen how these male athletes are. So when we look at, the draft of these football players, and Becky's like right there on his arm, and you're like, oh, why can't he get a black woman? He a sellout. He's a this. He's a that. He a coon. My sisters are like, no, see, y'all don't understand. Y'all don't understand. Based on what Black Steel says, the path of least resistance. You have these. He said, my sister's like, I've seen these dudes, these black dudes. They try to check with the black girls, but these white girls, they would like Black Steel said, they do double monkey flips, whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do, how many times I'll do it. They're there when they're on the come up because they see something like, yo, this nigga over here is on the come up. Oh. She talking about she don't suck dick. Okay, I get balls and all that, and then some. I'll have my homegirl come join too, whatever it takes. And then we wonder like, oh, how did that happen? My sister said they do all types of nasty stuff you would not believe. And as a young man, if you have you got a freak and she's gonna hold you down, why not? You know what I'm saying? So to Juana's point, Black Steel's point, that's another dynamic we have to that we have to deal with. That is a reality.
Sure, no, that's a reality. But I also, in fact, if I could remember, I'm going to try and clip this. What Black Steel said. I don't want to miss the other part of what Black Steel just said too. Are we raising our daughters with the same mentality? See, Black Steel mentioned when not all black people are Pan-Africans. That's true. We should be, but we aren't. But you know what we should be? At the very least, we should be race first. We should be black first at the very least. Yeah, Piper, thanks for your attention. I appreciate it. But I'm going to go over here by my folks in there. You know what I mean? And I think we shouldn't forget that part of what Black Steel also said. We got to rate, and this goes to a long-running conversation, one that's come up in the last 2 or 3 weeks about black women, that we got to have those real conversations about. Trigger Happy in the chat mentioned something very interesting. He says, many black men point out there is no equivalent for Dr. Umar for the women. I hadn't even really thought about that. He says that there's a leniency in a sense. So everything had to be well-rounded and holistic. And that leniency is a part of the problem. We are very lenient when it comes to one gender and not the other. And I'm not going to get into the whole thing about it, but it's true. We are very lenient with one gender as opposed to the other. And the truth is, we need to raise both our black boys and black girls to have at least a race-first consciousness. Does anyone want to add any last to this?
Yes, sir. There is an equivalency. I don't know how old Trigger Happy is, but there was a sister out here. Her name was Shahrazad Ali. She wrote many books in terms of relationships. Many books. Check out. Her name is Shahrazad Ali. She was on the Chitlin circuit. She was on CNN. This is back in the 90s. I don't know how old Trigger Happy is.
But Shahrazad Ali got to be in her 80s, man. Like, we need somebody coming out right now.
No, but the books are still there. The books are still there. The books are still very relevant. And what I'm saying is, and like if you're saying that Black Steel, I understand that. Currently, you have Shay Sade, who is very good with someone's mic is open. You have Shay Sade, who is very good in terms of talking about relationships. But my issue, Trigger Happy. The only thing I would say is we talked about this before. Dr. Johnson is extremely problematic because Dr. Johnson is not the barometer of black relationships. He doesn't have he doesn't have a partner or a black wife that he could refer to, that he could say, I had a successful relationship with a black woman for more than 10 years. And all the women, most of the women who are coming out right now, they have horrible things to say about this gentleman who talking about only the snow bunny hopping, black women. Listen, brother, even down to his daughter. You got to be very careful with the people you throw out there in terms of relationship or relational advice, because the young people see this and they're going to take you for a clown because they see his deeds, not his words, his deeds, what he is doing with the women who he is currently involved with. And they can say, well, if it didn't work for him, it cannot work for me. He is not the barometer to look at, brother. I'm telling you. And I ain't trying to talk bad about no other black man. I'm just saying that we got to be careful. I would say that. I'll leave it there.
You see the problem there? We're hard on Umar, but we're ignoring the fundamental point. Where is the more pristine version of Umar and a black woman who's out here speaking about, race first matters? That's really the point.
Cool. Louis Farrakhan, whether you want to admit it or not, whether the brothers don't like him or not, has been in a relationship for more than 50, 60 years with one black woman. He has raised many generations of children. He into his grandchildren now. Consistently, you don't hear no conversations about him jumping in bed with this woman, that woman. You don't hear women coming out talking about him in disrepute. He has been having a consistent relationship with one partner for decades now. So I'm saying, if you want to look at something, go look at that. Or look at your own parents. If they had, my father was married to one woman until he died 50 years. 50 years. I'm saying that. Anyways, I'll leave it. I'll leave it alone. I can leave that alone.
Because Bonnie, you're still ducking the point. Where is, like Trina said at the same time I said it. Bonnie, you're skipping the point. Where is the female equivalent in our modern times?
And even Shay Sade, she's problematic her damn self because she's a Bible thumper.
She's a Bible thumper.
It's hard to get through to her. She flip-flopped too much for my personal taste.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point because, again, there's a leniency, right? We beat up on black men. We exalt black women, but where's the substance? That's what I want to get at. Where is that substance? We got to give the substance to our children, boys and the girls. We have to give that substance because we're talking about black boys bringing home white women. What about the black women who bringing home white men?
Call Brother Bakari. Brother Bakari, you think black women is going? Please come up and argue with these gentlemen.
Let me say this real quick. So much of our interpersonal relationship is seen through the eyes of the market, right? Everything is about value, sexual marketplace value. What do you bring to the table, right? Everything, the women have a term for it. They call it financial dating, right? They want to date the dude who gives them the most bang for their buck. And when you look at it like that, who got the most money in the society? The white man does. White men tend to have more money. But even if he doesn't have money, his whiteness in itself has value. And that could go for the men or the women also. But because, again, the way we view human relations, everything is for sale. Everything is a commodity, right? Everything. And when you put a price on something, you automatically devalue it, right? This is me getting to my communist bag. So, when you have these people who are telling black women, to live the soft life, then they're automatically going to gravitate towards white men because white men have more money than black men in general. So that's why you don't see a female version of Umar saying, black men only, black men forever, white men never. You never hear that. You never hear that expressed because the idea is that the white man can give you a better life because he has money, as if money is the only thing required to give a better life.
But black
Amen.
steel. Black, no, 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 no. I resting on that one. I resting on that one. We talking about word and we talking about deed. And Black Steel knows very well that 90% of black women in terms of partnership choose someone who looks like them. In fact, they outnumber the black men in terms of dating and partnership and even marriage. So you can't rest on, even though you may not have an equivalent like Dr. Umar Johnson in word, indeed, the women are doing it anyways. They are practicing what we talking about more so than we are statistically.
But Born, I would argue with you. That's not by choice, though. That's not by choice.
Black Steel taking all my points before I get.
Go ahead. Go ahead. That's your thunder. All right, I'm gonna go ahead. It's not by choice. Black, for the most part, and I hate to say this, right? That white men do not view black women as desirable the way white women view black men as desirable, right? It's not that black women are particularly staying loyal. It's that there's no safe landing place. Black men are the ship, and everything else is the sea. And you get away from black men, you might drown. Every day you hear about, so they just found a black woman who was dead in some cracker's attic because she went on some fancy dating site, right? But overall, black women are practicing it because there's not really an option for them to be long-term relationship. Will a white man smash? Absolutely he will. But will he marry you? Will he raise them kids? Will he bring you around his family? Will he give up? Will he give up his inheritance from Meemaw to be with a black woman? Not always. Not seeing it. Not seeing it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm saying that more than likely the black woman doesn't have the option to date outside of her race as easily as black men do. And that's why you have black women who are literally writing books on teaching black women how to become more desirable to white men. Go on Amazon. There's a book called The White Man's Whore. Like,
Black Steel,
right now.
Black Steel. Meghan Markle, who's a black woman, got the Prince of England
Shit.
to give up his crown for a black woman.
Meghan Markle is not black. I'm sorry. That lady has never claimed to be black in her life. That lady's never claimed blackness. She always says she is biracial. She's never been in a relationship with a black man a day in her life. If you didn't look at her mother, you would not know she was a black woman.
Thank you. I hate when black people do that. She's not black. We're using this plantation type of ideology of blackness. Other people in the world don't do that. If you're a half Chinese person and a half white person, you go over to the Chinese side, they're like, oh, you're fully Chinese. They don't do that. And they don't do that on the European side. You're 100% Scottish. No, they say you're mixed. Only black people and brown people or colonized people do that shit. If she's
No,
not,
Kofi.
when it comes to mixed
No.
people, if they ain't claiming it, they ain't it.
Nah,
And she's
Kofi.
never
that's not-
claimed us. She's never claimed us.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's go slow with this. If she hasn't claimed that, but the British society, in fact, the Crown, she said that her child, she was getting told her child was a monkey. She may not claim she's black, but certainly the English public believes that she's black, and certainly the crown. This is the reason why the white man was willing to give up his crown for the holy black woman, Meghan Markle. Y'all see that?
Are you fucking with me? Listen, you cannot sit up here and hide under the shelter of blackness after you've rejected blackness for your entire life. Now, her whole life she was biracial. Now they start calling little Archie a monkey and all the other names. Archie got red hair and blue eyes. Okay, you would never know Archie's grandmother is a black woman, ever. Look at Diana Ross. Look at Eartha Kitt. Look at these black women that marry white dudes. Look at their grandchildren. They basically bled the blackness out of them. So no, Meghan Markle ain't black. She don't get to hide under black people just because the English people are mean to her. Like John Henry Clark said, if you go over there, you stay over there. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Another thing we have to be careful in our society, where I think we have to redefine what blackness is, since us being in slavery and we taking on ideologies of what a white person is or what it means to be black. I think that's why we're confused, because they're definitely not confused. Because if you're half, think of it. If the one drop rule works, where no matter what type of amount of black you have, you're still black. You know who that's protecting? That's protecting white people. That's protecting their numbers. They don't want any interlopers. They don't want anybody with split loyalties or anything to be a part of their group. And that makes sense. Now, on the other side, what does that do to black people? That means anybody can be black. Anybody can be black. And now, I can't say anything offensive about that person because my wife is Irish. Oh, I can't say anything about her because my wife is Chinese, but they still black. You see how that doesn't work? That works against us instead of for us.
Kofi, first of all, Jacadary, you don't have the luxury of sitting in the audience. You must come up. You are a panelist. You must come up. Follow protocol. The only person who have that privilege is Trigger Happy. Needless to say, let me say this. Kofi, you can't have it both ways. Because you call Kamala Harris a black woman, and Kamala Harris has two. She has one.
She claims to be black.
No. Let me finish. She has one black parent and one Asian parent. Now with Meghan Markle, you say she ain't black. You can't have it both ways, brother. Stop that. You can't have it both ways.
Hold on. But go ahead, Kobe. Go ahead.
Father is the Jamaican.
Not just that.
Black and a brown person, and Kamala Harris says she's black. Now Kamala Harris saying, "Well, she's gonna just be an Indian woman." Like Trump said, all of a sudden she became black. She's black. Then you will have a point. But what Black Steel says, Meghan Markle never claimed to be black. Diana Ellis Ross' daughter, that's a black woman because she claims her blackness. Mariah Carey, right? White passing. She claims her blackness. Meghan Markle never claimed her blackness. So,
but if you say you biracial, but if you biracial, you are claiming your blackness. You just saying I am half black and half white. You are claiming your blackness if you say you biracial. Stop that.
But in the words of Big Daddy Kane, ain't no half stepping, bro. There's no half stepping. Right?
No, it is a half step. It is half. No, it is half
black.
No, Kofi trying to have it both ways, and he can't have it both ways. She says she's biracial, and biracial means I am half white and half black. She just doesn't say that she isn't white. So you can't have it both ways,
No,
Kofi.
I'm not
Stop that.
disagreeing you when it comes to that, but we're talking about representation. Like when it comes to if you're two things, you can walk that straight line, but in my opinion, I don't trust you, right? But if you're gonna say, hey, there are people like, and I gave those examples, Diana Ellis Ross and Mariah Carey, Kamala Harris, they claim to be black, but at the same time, they honor their other side, but they claim themselves to be black women. Meghan Markle has not done that. Let's do apples to apples, orange to oranges. Now, if you show me somewhere Meghan Markle say, "Hey, yes, I'm a black woman," blah blah blah, yada yada yada, then yeah, you will have a point. But the point, and Black Steel Eye is making that she never claimed her blackness. That's all that I'm saying. What you're saying is right, but it's not speaking to what we're trying to say.
Meghan Markle was on that show Suits, and she was on Deal or No Deal. Meghan Markle never claimed to be black. And by the way, we kind of getting away from the point here, but Meghan Markle never claimed to be black. And as a matter of fact, Meghan Markle is so white passing, you have to squint to see there's something in there, but I don't know what it is. It could be some kind of Latina. I don't know. But you have to squint to see. If you don't see her mother, you wouldn't know that she's any kind of black. Half, quarter, or whatever.
But Coco, she didn't disinvite her mother from her wedding. So if you have to squint, all you gotta do is look at the audience and see her big nose black mother in that audience to know I have a black mother.
And her mama was the only black person there too.
The only person. If her
That's a reach, Guana. That's a reach.
Yeah. So again, let's get back to, because I'm about to introduce Jacadero here, but let's get it back to what we're talking about. I think the real thing that we're talking about in this prompt is get active, man. Black man, black woman, get active with these children and get a race consciousness in there. And let them understand, don't really mix with these people. You have to be around them because of the situation, especially in America. If you're going to work in a job, this, that, and the other, you're going to be around these folks. We don't really have the institutions that only hire black folks, this, that, and the other. So you're going to have to kind of get along, go along to get along and in these jobs and this, that, and the other. But in your personal lives, you get these fucking people up from around you. With that said, let's welcome Jacadero in this week. Jacadero, how are you this week?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, man? I'm well. I'm well. Juana, I appreciate that. That I can't be part of the audience, huh? So I can't just be traveling, huh? I have to hurry up and get out my headphones and be able to make this. But I got you, Juana.
So, Jack, what do you say to
I'll show you later. I'll show you later, Jacadero.
Jack, what do you say about this image here? Let me find the prompt again. I got to scroll up. Should be topic number 2 says, how would y'all feel if your sons brought home Becky? Would we feel the same way like their fathers if they were racist? What say you, Jacadero?
Yeah, it's a sad sight. Usually these things are. You would have to. What's the word that I'm trying to use? I feel that this problem existed in the beginning, and what do I mean by that? They probably go to a school that's dominated by white people. Same with like you live in a Latino neighborhood. I believe that I've heard that Dearborn, Michigan, right outside of Detroit, is pretty much like an Arab city. And so, you as a parent, if you have the financial ability, you got to do your best to, put your sons and daughters in environments where they would have to go out of their way for this. I hope I'm making sense. So, sure, we can blame these two individuals. That's fine. I don't mind the accountability. But then also it's like, if you're a father of these two young men, for these two young men, like what did you do? If you were going to get angry, what did you do in advance? Did you try your hardest to, put your sons and your daughters where they're not even thinking about it, their closest option or their you know It's oftentimes to say like the term slim pickums. Did they have that? You know, hey, did the black girls that were around them, were they far and few in between? And then also like, what are you doing at home? You know, I reflect this a lot to the parents. Another thing is that it looks like these guys are around 16, 15. They could be 17, 18, but maybe 15, 16. You know, I'd continue to talk to myself even after I would see something like this. Would it anger me? Yeah. But then again, I would ask myself, like, what did I do to prepare for a situation like this? Um, and then, you know, you have continuous education. And one of the things that this brother, the taller brother, he looks South Sudanese. So I'm laughing just because,
I thought so too.
yeah, right? Like he
Yeah,
looks,
he does. Yeah, I don't
he
like to say this
looks,
African phenotype, but he looks like he's from Sudan.
yeah, South Sudan. And so I'm in a group chat with some South Sudanese majority South Sudanese brothers. It's a fantasy football group chat, and I don't know how we got in the conversation. I can't remember, but as we know, the NBA season's coming up, and South Sudanese are really, really proud of their basketball team. You know, during the exhibition games of the Olympics, you know, South Sudan nearly beat Team USA. And one of those players that hit the 3 point to, I think it was either to tie it or have South Sudan's go up by one against the US on LeBron James. His name is JT Thor. And I think he just got on the roster for, don't quote me on the NBA team, but now he's back in the NBA after playing, I think, for the either the G League or maybe overseas. But I bring that up is because JT Thor is a solid 6'10", and they say he has like a 7'1" wingspan. You guys can look him up. And there's another model. There's another South Sudanese model. Her name is Anok Yai. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. And you know, they like, I think it's like for the past 3 years she's always been the most sought after um TikTok account. Like every year for the past 3 years her TikTok account gets the most engagement. You know, after towards like the end of December they always come up with like who's generated the most engagement. And a Nokia, out of all the accounts that you guys can think of, her account always comes up. And Anok doesn't seem like she's short. She seems also like a taller South Sudanese person. And I said in the chat, I go, you know, how amazing would it be if Anok and JT Thor were to get together and have a child? We talk about Giannis in the basketball world like he is God's gift to earth, you know, like that's a Nigerian freak, right? Like this is exactly what type of like when you create a player on 2K, Giannis is the type of player that everybody that is into basketball, into video games, you want to create. Now imagine in a Nokia and a JT Thor, and you make now a darker, right? More nimble. Imagine more nimble. And already Giannis is already nimble as it is. He's already a freak of athletic nature. And now you have just a darker and a slimmer and just somebody that can just jump a little bit higher than Giannis. And then some of the guys in the group chat, I guess they know JT Thor, and they were like, "Oh, he's into snow bunnies." And I was like, "No, no, no way, no, 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 that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't come on." And why it doesn't make any sense is I don't know why, but I think it was sometime last year. You know, I'm kind of putting myself out there, but I'm under 6 foot, uh, and I just looked up like what is the percentage of men above 6'2" in the world. And studies are pretty tough just because it varies with each study, but the general consensus is that it's less than 4% of the world's men are under 6'2", or excuse me, less than 4% of the world's men are above 6'2" and above. And so, just JT Thor being 6'10", and then you're probably messing with snow bunnies, and most snow bunnies, it's rare that you see, white women that are even above 5'10". right? And I was just like, you have a high, if you have a child, you're just watering down the perfect product, my guy. And so these are the type of things that you would try to instill in your boys. Like if you got an individual like we see on screen that is either Senegalese or South Sudanese descent, it's just telling him like, do you love the way that you look? So if you love the way that you look, imagine your son or your daughter being the exact replica of you and or being better. And then you just go from there. But again, I think these things are a lot of the work has to come from the parents. As a father, if you're going to be upset at this, again, what type of school district did you put your child in? What type of education? And then again, instilling that like, hey, do you love the way that you look? Why wouldn't you want your children potentially to look as good, if not better than you?
Jackadar, I appreciate you tuning in, even though you were traveling. You were still in the chat listening. I do appreciate that, man. I do. Trigger Happy says we need an arranged marriage topic because that's what we should be engaged in, or at least more organized forms of courtship. And I agree. We need more organized forms of courtship. Musings and Bloom, I haven't seen you in a minute. He or she says, I think part of the problem is calling these melanin deficient people snow bunnies. I agree with you too. That denotes cuteness or innocence, etc. It's a great marketing campaign for these white people. And that's one of the things I never liked about Umar talking about snow bunny. Because the way he says it in a way that kind of feels a little wrong. But anyway, Trigger Happy says also, Jacadero, we don't need to stop at physical attributes. If you are an intelligent black man or black man with leadership qualities, you're not passing down those qualities to black children. Last question. This is a question for everyone. I haven't seen it. I got to look it up. Provide Triggers for Evolution asks the question, has anyone seen one battle after another? Has anyone here seen that?
Nah, I haven't heard of that.
I don't know what that is.
I started to watch it, and let me tell you, what's the singer name from New York City? Her name is, what's the singer name? Kofi, Tisha, whatever her name is.
Mhm.
In 5 minutes of that movie, she was licking Sean Penn's asshole. Well, the
Oh,
insinuation was in terms of the
Excuse me, what the fuck?
this is a fact.
Now I don't want to see it. Now I don't want to see it.
This is a fact.
What were you watching?
I tell you, I watched the first 10 minutes of that movie, and these are supposed to be black revolutionary women. And in the first 10 minutes of that movie, she went, really and truly, she went into a room with Sean Penn, who was the adversary in the movie, and she had a sexual act with him. Now, she is a black revolutionary, and in the sexual act, one of the things she did is she pinned him against the wall, and he was naked, and she was standing at the back of him, and she gone down, and the insinuation of that movie was she was licking his ass, eating his groceries, as the young people say. So I'm saying, as a revolutionary, I think of Asada Shakur. So would Asada Shakur commit that kind of act? Now the liberals saying, well, it's a rebel. It was so twisted. I cut that movie when I saw that bullshit. Let me say bullshit. I cut that movie completely. I'm like, this supposed to be a black revolutionary woman? Come on, man. Come on.
It's a
Hollywood
science.
is a crazy place. Yeah, Hollywood is a crazy place, and I cut that movie off. That's the only part of that movie I see, and I was done with it.
It's a psyop. It's like this. There's this popular book called Dare Black People, and it came on HBO, and it was like a movie or something. So I started looking at it. I was like, oh, this is good. And she's talking all that revolutionary stuff. It sounded like a Fannie Lou Hamer, sounded like a Shirley Chisholm and a Shada Shakur. And she's a young person that's on campus. She goes back to the dorm. She's having sex with a white boy. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's all psyops. Like, there's certain movies I do not watch. And when I was a lot younger, I'm not patting myself on the shoulder or anything like that, because I grew up in your typical West Indian household that is not like pro black, but I always felt that there's something wrong with these things. Up to this day and age, I am proud to say, and this bothered me when it came out. Because I love Whitney Houston. I have never, ever seen in my Chris Tucker voice seen The Bodyguard. Why am I interested in one of, at that time in the 90s, Whitney Houston, a diva, goddess, voice of an angel? Her bodyguard is a white guy, and a white guy saving a black woman. That never settled with me. That never settled with me. And when I hear people just, oh, such a wonderful movie, and you know, and the famous song, yeah, it's a beautiful song, but I would not look at the video, because the video shows you clips from the movie, and they're being intimate. I'm like, what the fuck is this? What is this? Like, you couldn't find a black man to play that. Wesley Snipes was popping back then. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people who you could have got, but they purposely, when I heard how The Bodyguard is being made or whatever, they purposely, no, because we wanted to be a white person there, because race relations, this, that. Like, who gives a fuck about that? Race relations and racism is a problem that white people have. Why do we have to be a part of your goddamn solution? You the ones who are the sick ones, not us. Why you? What's this fucking slave play that's going on? So I'm definitely not going to watch that movie. I just wanted to say that.
There's a podcast called "White People Won't Save You" on a Spotify. I think it's very good. It talks about the white savior movies, and to that movie, you can also add A Bronx Tale, because there's nowhere in the world this white boy called this girl's sister, called this little girl's brother a nigger, and she still stayed with him. I hate that movie.
I remember that. Black Steel. I
my-
remember that, and I was so confused. Like, wait, what the hell's going on?
I'll look at Jungle Fever though. After that white girl when the time for a nigga, I look at Jungle Fever over and over again. I look at that. That's funny.
Shout out to Jose, who's out there in the chat. Musings and Bloom says these films are a form of psychological grape. White people desperately want to grape masses of black people. Motherfuckers are sick. Provide Triggers for Evolution said it seems to me that mixed marriages to white males are celebrated on the continent, particularly by the middle or upper middle class. Just my perception. She had asked the question of the panel earlier if we think if there's more of a proclivity on the continent to have mixed marriages and stuff like that. I don't know personally, but I know Provide Triggers travels to the continent frequently, and that's what she has seen or perceived to have seen. Do you guys have an understanding of the interracial relationship dynamics on the continent?
I don't, but I've seen the videos where the black women are telling, to be careful about having these kids, because they get the same. White men get the best PR in the world, man. White men are seen as desirable, and you don't see. And for those black women over there, they don't see white men every day. So when they get a white man, they see a surprise, or Asian man, it's a surprise to them. So I feel sorry for them, but I'm not aware of the dynamics. I'm pretty sure it's probably worse than what it is here.
I might change the conversation to something else. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that. Now, the dynamic. So let's say, for argument, besides the Sudanese guy, let's say he's just a darkly heavy melanated African American or Caribbean. Let's just say that, right? The dynamic between people growing up in the States and in the Caribbean marrying these white girls versus African man or African woman marrying a continental African man. If these two people that we see, these two couples were to get married, they're going to have a nice European wedding, and it's going to be your typical European wedding serving hors d'oeuvres and with potato salad with raisins in it. If they were, now if the continental Africans, the African man and the African woman that's marrying their white counterparts, they are having an African wedding. They're having a traditional African wedding. That African man and African woman that's marrying that European, they are not giving up their culture. That is a fact. That is more. I rather that than this that we see, because at least, even though it's cringe, it's like, you got white people wearing kente cloth and additional African attire. It's a turn on, but to me, it's at least they're holding on to their culture instead of sacrificing their culture. So to me that's a little bit of a net positive versus what we'll see here. And most interracial couples that I've seen, is nothing but niggas trying to run away from who they are. So if their wife is Irish, niggas is wearing green for St. Patrick's Day. If she's Italian, niggas want to learn Italian and brag about how they went to Venice. You see what I'm saying? So the dynamic is different.
Trigger, I'm going to ask you a favor again to post a topic for the next week or so. This thing that you and Jose just said in the chat is very interesting. The continent bleaches their skin, whereas the diaspora bleaches reproductively. I find that a fascinating statement. I'd like you to put up a prompt on that. Let's discuss that a little bit more, during a different week. But
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
The continent bleaches their skin more, but the diaspora bleaches reproductively. That's very interesting.
More access to white people, but I'll talk about more.
Yeah. Any last quick thoughts on this prompt? If not, let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3, I guess. Shoot the Breeze